Hi, everybody. I'm live outside the Southern District Court of New York. Just waiting for some people to join us and I'll get started. It's a little bit windy today, so hopefully there's no problem with my audio. And if anyone's watching this, if they could write in the comments that they can hear me okay. So I'm going to get started because I'm going to go into the court shortly, but so the court is behind me, the Southern District Court is behind me. And right now I'm gathered with a bunch of Hondurans that are here setting up a vigil. I'm not sure if I can turn my camera around, but the trial against the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, has come to an end here in New York City. And today, right now actually, or in half an hour, the Judge Castle, will be giving the jury their instructions about what they have to do in their deliberations in determining whether Juan Orlando Hernandez will be found guilty or not guilty. And then in approximately, probably around 11 o'clock, the judge will formally hand the case over to the jury. So the court, actually, the trial ended yesterday, but the jury instructions will be going on this morning. And then the jury will be handed the case, as I said, and they will start their deliberations. And so I doubt there'll be a verdict today. I mean, I don't think a jury, knowing that they might be finding someone guilty or not guilty with such a serious responsibility, I doubt that there'll be a verdict today. In previous cases, the verdict's usually taken about, in the two other cases I've been related to Honduran drug traffickers, it usually takes about at least a day for the jury to get together, deliberate, and make a decision. So I don't expect there'll be anything today. But regardless, this morning in front of the court, there were several Hondurans making a line thinking that the verdict might be today. So we'll see. Nobody knows. But I wanted to do a live just to announce that the case has come to an end here in New York City. And also talk a little bit about maybe what this trial means, some of the observations and reflections that I have about the trial, and some of the things that have gone on in the trial, what we've heard about. And then also I wanted to show you that Hondurans are busy here outside the court setting up a vigil because they want it to be known that just because and I'm not sure how to do this. I'll see if I can do this so people can see. But they want people to know that it's not just about Juan Orlando Hernandez. It's not just about, Honduras' narco state, but it's also about what has happened in Honduras over the last 15 years. And so Hondurans have come today with, we're setting up a vigil outside the court. I'm not sure if people can see. I'm trying my best to push the camera around so you can see, but there are photos, so many photos of people from Honduras that have been killed over the years in so many different struggles around the country. And I just wanted to highlight some of them because the Honduras Solidarity Network, along with other groups, have really worked on several of these cases that are, depicted in these pictures here outside the Southern District Court. because even though Juan Orlando Hernandez is on trial, there's still a narco state that was constructed with the US and Canada's support over so many years, and that there's still justice to be done in Honduras, particularly for those that have been murdered and that have been fighting for a better Honduras, and also fighting against the US and Canadian role in Honduras for so many years. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of these people that are depicted in these photos, but also give you a little bit of an update about what's going on in the trial. So as many people know, if you're watching my daily trial summaries, Juan Orlando Hernandez decided to take the stand. And that was actually quite surprising. I'm sure there's some people a lot of lawyers that would often tell a defendant not to take the stand because it opens them up to so many different questions from the prosecutors, and it's very easy it's just a sensitive issue. It's very easy for a defendant to look guilty or say things that might cause the jury to have certain opinions that might not be favorable to the defendant. But surprisingly, and in terms of the legal system, Juan Orlando Hernandez decided to take the stand. And he did pretty well when the defense was questioning him, but he also kept trying to slip in all these comments about all the great things that he did for Honduras and all the different, the narrative that the defense promoted throughout the trial about, how he cracked down on crime and how he worked so closely with the United States and on the war on drugs. And he actually made several comments about meeting so many different times with John Kelly, who was head of the U.S. Southern Command, and also who was the director of Homeland Security, I think under Trump, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that. And then just how much he met with the U.S. Government over so many years to basically deal with the war on drugs and crack down on violence and crime in his country, according to Juan Orlando Hernandez. And it's really interesting because for me, it was, as Juan Orlando Hernandez is on the stand, basically not refusing to answer yes or no to a lot of the questions that the defense was asking him. And also, almost like he was entering a self-promotion, like instead of saying yes or no, he would go on this long spiel about how all of these great things that he did to crack down on crime in Honduras. And then the judge would have to say, no, you're not allowed to say that, like strike that from the record. It's a yes or no question. You need to keep your answers limited to the question. But Juan Orlando Hernandez took every opportunity possible to slip in all of these comments about, how great he was and how much he cracked down on crime and what a great supporter he was of the U.S. and everything that the U.S. asked for, he did, to the point where it's interesting because the close relationship between the U.S. and Canada with Juan Orlando Hernandez over so many years actually gave him more ammunition in his testimony, because he would frequently say, I created the Tigres, which is a special police force in Honduras that was funded, vetted, and trained by the United States and was sort of known for so long in Honduras as the unit that basically was managed and controlled by the U.S. Embassy. And so Juan Orlando Hernandez took that opportunity and when he took the stand to say, I can't be a drug trafficker. He didn't say he can't be a drug trafficker, but, I cracked down on crime. I created the Tigres that were, special units to crack down on organized crime in Honduras. So it was interesting because he used all of that support and all of the relationship that he had with the U.S. government to basically say that he, was this fantastic president that couldn't possibly be trafficking drugs. And that was sort of his narrative as he took the stand. And then, obviously, as you know, like after the defense questioned their own witness, the Juan Orlando Hernandez, the prosecutors got up and started talking to him and asking him questions. And that was sort of when I think, him taking the stand kind of turned against him. In several moments, he refused to, Juan Orlando Hernandez refused to answer questions. He refused to answer yes or no. And he tried really hard to avoid answering the questions. At one point, he was asked, in actually two occasions, he was asked about pictures that had been displayed as evidence in the trial. One of Juan Orlando Hernandez posing with one of the largest drug traffickers in Honduras, our narco Valle, of the Valle cartel that's based in Santa Barbara. and the son or the children of another drug trafficker. And when he was asked about whether that was him in the photo, he said, you know, on one occasion he said, "Parece que sí," like as in it seems like it's me, and that sort of caused the whole court to uh, to laugh, basically, all the Hondurans that were watching inside the courtroom. And then on the other occasion, when he was asked about the other photo, he said that it might have been photoshopped or that it might have been modified because it looked like his face where he was standing and hugging Arnolfo Valle, a drug trafficker. He said that his face looked clearer and he wasn't sure that was his body. So, I mean, that was really, you know, ridiculous. And for me, I think it was very evident that he was a man trying to save himself on the stand, and I think he underestimates the intelligence of the jury to know that what he's saying is clearly, you know, someone that's trying to save themselves on the stand. So, I mean, there's a lot of details. I posted a lot of the details in our daily trial summaries that I posted on HondurasNow.org. But I just want to return a little bit to the role of the U.S. and Canada, because that's what I'm doing here. That's my reason for coming. You know, and several moments throughout the trial, I sort of paused and I thought, you know, this in so many ways, as much as I want justice for, you know, the Honduran people, as much as I know that Juan Orlando Hernandez did terrible things, you know, including putting my own partner in prison for a year and a half in a U.S. style prison, you know, there's so much about this process that is a show. You know, it's a show for the U.S. government. You know, the U.S. prosecutor's office was drilling Juan Orlando Hernandez, like, oh, so you didn't know that Tony Hernandez was a drug trafficker dating back to 2014 when it was in the media? You didn't know that the Valle cartel were drug traffickers in 2014 when they were arrested? And I was sort of thinking, like, wait a second, the U.S. government and the Canadian government should be asking themselves those questions. You didn't know that Tony Hernandez was a drug trafficker in 2014. You didn't know that he was trafficking drugs on a massive scale in 2014. And of course they knew. And the U.S. government knew, just like they expected Juan Orlando Hernandez as the president to know. And yet they continued to support Juan Orlando Hernandez, even when there was a massive electoral fraud, where even the OAS, the Organization of American States, said, you know what, I think that maybe the election should be repeated because we're not totally clear that, you know, we can certify the results. So I think that there, like so many times throughout the trial, I was thinking about how much it's sort of like a show. You know, it's not fair that the U.S. government is putting one of their biggest allies on trial when they supported him so much throughout so many years. And it's sort of sad in many ways because if you think about it, putting Juan Orlando Hernandez in jail, even though, you know, even though, like, I think that, you know, he needs to face what he's responsible for. And I don't have any doubts that, you know, he's responsible for many crimes that go beyond just drug trafficking. What does it actually do to change, to change what's going on in Honduras? What does it actually do to change, the role that the U.S. and Canada have played and how we can stop doing what we did as Canadian and as U.S. and Canadian government in Honduras over so many years since the 2009 coup. So I've been thinking a lot about that, and I encourage people watching the transmission to think about that as well. And then join us in our campaign. We're sharing the links on in the comments. You can go to HondurasNow.org. You can also follow us on Twitter, Honduras Now, or Honduras Solidarity, or Honduras Sol, which is the Honduras Solidarity Network, who's leading this campaign from the Southern District of New York. And so I just want to say that I'll probably do some more lives. I don't expect the verdict to be in today. I'm going to go into court in about 15 minutes to see if there's anything new. I imagine that the prosecution might want to address Juan Orlando Hernandez's testimony and potentially, I mean, I'm going way out of my expertise right now, but you know, I think that the prosecutors are probably going to be quite concerned about Juan Orlando Hernandez's testimony since he was clearly denying many things that were very clearly laid out in the trial when he testified yesterday and the day before. But I just want to go back to the martyrs, the picture of the martyrs that are in front of me right now. And I'm going to try and turn the camera around. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but hopefully this doesn't end. Here we go. That's great. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of these people and The Honduras Solidarity Network's done a lot of work in solidarity with the people of Honduras and social movements. And so I just want to talk about a couple that I think are really important to highlight because they're ongoing cases. And the first one I want to talk about is Snyder Centeno. Snyder Centeno was one of the leaders, Garifuna leader from the community of Triunfo de la Cruz. He was disappeared, I think in 2020. I might be mistaken, 2021. I think it was 2020. And he was disappeared along with three other Garifuna leaders that were fighting fighting for their ancestral titles in Triunfo de la Cruz. And it's been such a battle for the Black Fraternal Organization of Honduras and Snyder Centeno's family, who are leading the fight to call for justice. There's been so much work in the U.S. Congress and in Canada and the Canadian Parliament around that case. And there's been several representatives in the U.S. Congress calling for justice for Snyder Centeno and the three other disappeared Garifuna leaders, as well as fulfilling the Inter-American Commission sentence that basically says that the state of Honduras has to resolve or give the land back, the ancestral title back to the Garifuna people. Another one I wanted to mention is Jose Angel Flores, who is a leader of the unified campesino movement of the Iguan, who was murdered in front of his whole community when he was president of MUCA in the Bajo Iguan region, which continues to have so many problems because, in a large part, because of the U.S. Embassy, who refuses to respect private property of the campesino organizations and cooperatives in the Bajo Iguan region. And there's been no justice for Jose Angel Flores. He was murdered brutally by death squads in the Iguan Valley. And I just really want to say something quickly about those death squads is that, there was a military general, the defense called 3 military generals to the stand in support of Juan Orlando Hernandez. And one of the military generals was actually stationed in the 15th Battalion. He was head of the Special Forces in the 15th Battalion, which is located in the Bajo Iguan region at the time that Jose Angel Flores was murdered. And the Special Forces, the Honduran Special Forces with training from the U.S. government and U.S. Military, they basically continued to lead death squads. And all the way back to, 2014, 13, they led death squads in the Iguan Valley, and they continue to basically support death squads by not actually listening to the campesino movement or doing anything about the ongoing rights violations. So this military general came to testify, and he was all proud that he was head of the special forces in the Iguan Valley. And for me, he should be held responsible for the role that he played in a lot of the abuses in the Bajo Iguan region when he was stationed in the 15th Battalion in the Department of Colon. There's so many other people that are here, martyrs that are here. So I'm just I'm sorry. Yeah, no, there's some people that are taking pictures or filming this vigil. Also, Berta Cáceres, she's here as well, represented here in this vigil. Kayla Martinez as well. Kayla Martinez was a woman or a young woman that was murdered in police custody. And her mom is here demanding justice for her because there's nobody being held accountable for her murder when she was murdered inside a police cell in a detention site in the police station in La Esperanza. And so there's just so many people here. Like, this is not over. This trial puts one man in prison, but it doesn't resolve all the other issues that Hondurans have dealt with over the years and the lack of justice that there has been, or the lack of justice in Honduras for all of these people that have been murdered by the narco state backed by the United States and Canada. And so we're going to continue outside the court today as the jury's deliberating, and we're going to be informing people. The campaign is putting out another action very shortly, so please stay tuned. We continue to demand accountability for the U.S. and Canada in their role in supporting the narco state in Honduras. This is not over for the Honduras Solidarity Network. We will continue to keep the campaign going even after the verdict is in. We'll keep you informed when there is a verdict and what the actions that we have as part of the campaign. So please go to HondurasNow.org for updates, daily trial summaries, if you're interested in the nitty gritty of the trial. We also have campaign updates that connect what is happening in the trial with U.S. and Canadian policy. There'll be another one going out today or tomorrow, which looks at some of the things that the DEA says or said about doing business in Honduras, which there were several U.S. and Canadian companies that did business in Honduras during the narco state and economically benefited from the narco state. So we'll be talking more about that. And yeah, we'll keep you informed. So please, HondurasNow.org, take action now. We will be putting out another action shortly and another update. So thank you so much for joining me. And the link to our website and to the actions are in the chat, HondurasNow.org. Thank you so much, everybody. And we will announce another live shortly, maybe tomorrow. Thank you so much.